So we're going to do chapter, it says 21, but I think this is 22. Chapter 22, What is Learning, with Michael Ryce. So I'm just going to take us through the first bit there. So these sessions are recorded and shared publicly to support others in these teachings. And I'm Yink and I run Hear My Voice Book Club, which is an inspirational self-development books, and all the events can be found on Meetup. Just a quick reminder of what we've got left for the week. So we've got Friday's children's story time tomorrow, Insanity, Joe Dispenza's meditation on Saturday. We also have a double movie night at 5 p.m. on Saturday with Inside Out 1 and 2 on Saturday. So one it will be at 5, and then it'll probably be 6:30, 7 for number 2. And then we've got Qigong and transformational stories. And we've got Giselle tomorrow reading the Joe Dispenza chapter 8. Just to quickly say as well, Michael won't be, well, I won't be here for the next session. So we're going to do it on I think it'll be the 9th of August. So it'll be the second week in August on Thursday.
Yinka, can I just quickly ask you a question? Good evening, everybody. Yep. The movie, what link do we use to be able to watch the
if you
movie?
Message me, it's a children's link if you haven't already got it.
I haven't, no. Okay.
Oh, so message me. It's a separate link, just so that we don't get Zoom trolls. So next week is our Joe Dispenza week. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thanks.
So next week is Joe Dispenza week, where we'll have meditations and reading chapter 8. Giselle come and read chapter 8 next Wednesday as well at 7:30. And we'll do next Thursday chapter 8 and do the session. And I'm taking time off, so I will be off from the 20th all the way to the 30th. So I think it's the 31st of July I'll be back.
Good for you.
Yes, so I'm taking 10 days to do my own inner work and to relax, because my son's going away for 10 days, and normally I do work even harder when he's away, and it's like, no, if he goes away, I'm going to stop. So we'll be back for the 1st of August for the Abundance, the Inner Path to Wealth by Deepak Chopra. Also, we've got WhatsApp groups, so you can keep each other connected through the WhatsApp groups. And Hear My Voice Book Club runs non-profit events, so everyone can take part, regardless of financial status. Any donations, if they could please go to Michael, if anyone feels inspired to donate in supporting Michael in these teachings as well. And you can do that on whyagain.org donations. And Michael is the founder and director of Heartland Self-Healing Centre. Michael lectures and teacher on health and healing and the true meaning of true forgiveness. Michael is also married with Jeannie Ryce, who also supports Michael in these teachings as well. And just to say, throughout this session, if you are triggered by anything that is said throughout the session, to remember to breathe, because holding your breath is exactly how you require a past and about something, and you carry it with you. So holding your breath attaches the pain of an experience to a reality in the mind. So to remember to breathe. And me and Michael will also remind you of that as well. Did you want to share anything before we go into the chapter, Michael?
No, I'm just ready to rock and roll.
Away we go then. So the previous chapter, Richard, a successful man in his 30s, following his breakup of another marriage, I contacted Michael. Richard felt his life was a mess and was desperate and wanted Michael's help. In the previous chapter 21, Waking from the Has-Been, if all the information in our brain cells structure has come from the external world, our reality structures have been totally molded by the world. When we unconsciously lend our creative power to our past, we can become lost in recreating it. The essence of why is it happening to me again? I experience when we awaken from the sleep induced by existing in the shadow of a dead past and a dead mind, we find that love, aliveness, joy, and delight are our birthright, and anything less is a lie.
Right.
So here we're going into the learning. So remember when you first sat down at a computer, you had an idea what could be done, but because you had not built the brain cells for opening it up, you had no realities in the mind to guide you. Therefore, you could not get it to perform. Once you studied computers or an expert helped you build the brain cells, you could run it successfully. And I don't know if anybody remembers when computers first became really big. It was like most of us didn't even know how to turn it on.
I remember that first time I sat at a computer. And I'm still learning how to use them after decades.
Yes. Depending on what type of devices you have, Apple are very different than other computers.
I had an Atari.
Oh, wow.
That's how old I am.
So prior to being able to operate the computer, the only difference between you and the expert was the content of her mindset cell structure compared to yours. She had realities about computers that you had not yet built.
Well, let's just define the word reality there. We tend to think of realities. Well, that's what's happening out there in the world, right? No, what's happening out there in the world is actuality. And I like to use an example. If you've ever been in a courtroom where 6 different people testify about an accident, you wonder if any 2 of them were at the same accident. How could their realities be so different? Well, when an event happens, the mind builds a picture from what's resonated in the brain. And each picture that the mind builds reflects the content of the brain building the picture, oftentimes more than the actuality of what's going on in the real world. So 6 different people, 6 different realities. So in this work, we'll define reality as the output of your mind. Actuality is what happened. Seldom do the 2 meet. And what we're looking to do in particular is we talk about the process of forgiveness in this work. Forgiveness is the act of removing from the mind what never belonged. So if we have a lot of false realities, then there's going to be a lot of forgiveness work to remove those realities. And then you want to build new brain cells that are in harmony with the truth of what's going on. And, I use an example. I'll oftentimes introduce the Aramaic language to a group of people. And when I do that, I tell the story about, imagine we've got a workshop happening and it's here in America. And we have a fellow from Russia that wants to come to the workshop. And he speaks only Russian, but he's heard about this work and he wants to come to the workshop. And I know that you speak Russian. In fact, you're one of the best translators of Russian into English and English into Russian in the world. And I know you've got an extra room in your house, so I ask if you would be willing to pick this fellow up at the airport, translate for him and house him, and then get him back to the airport when the week is over. And you're like, yeah, I'd love to do that. That'd be great. And through the process of the week, we have dinner a couple of times, we get together, and really, we have a great time with this fellow. And at the end of the week, as you're getting ready to take him back to the airport, I want him to know what I think of him. And I don't speak any Russian, so I ask, would you pardon me. Excuse me. I had been eating something with a seed in it, and it just got caught in my throat. Excuse me. So I asked if you tell this fellow that I think he's really cool. And you turn to him in your best Russian, and you say, Michael thinks you've got a low body temperature. You translate my words perfectly, but you didn't say anything about what I meant. So, yes, there's a reality for cool. Hey, great guy, wonderful, fun. There's another reality for cool, low body temperature. Unless the content of my brain cells are matched by what's in your brain cells, what I speak will mean nothing to you compared to what I'm saying. if that makes sense. So with this work, what we're looking to do is to learn to forgive interfering energetic patterns stored in the mind and to build accurate patterns for what it is we're talking about. And, you know, the core tool we teach is forgiveness. And most of the world, the brain cells most of the world have for forgiveness is, well, you know, I'm in pain and it's all your fault, but it's okay. I'll let you off the hook. I'll be big about it. I'll forgive you. It's got nothing whatsoever to do with forgiveness. That act is called pardoning. It's an okay thing to do. But if you pardon someone and you think you've forgiven, then you'll never go to the next step and do the forgiveness work. And in the context of this work, forgiveness is a tool with which, if I have pain or trauma moving inside of me, I address and remove my pain and trauma. That's the act of forgiving. And so you can tell there's a whole different set of brain cells if I say, well, actually, you know, we're told in the ancient scriptures that this man, Yeshua, said, forgive your brother. No such words were ever spoken. The words were spoken, forgive as to your brother. So if I'm interacting with you and you're my brother and you bring up pain in me, I'd be told to forgive as to what you brought up in me. It would have nothing to do with forgiving you. So we're moving into a whole different level of understanding, a whole new set of brain cells when we're talking about forgiveness with this work. Hope that makes sense for everybody. Hope that helped you build some brain cells.
So once you develop the eye to see, you are able to tap the creative capacity of the computer because you know you now had the brain cells. So notice when the computer wouldn't perform for you, it did not mean there was something wrong with you, the computer or with you. All the possibilities were there. If you crashed the computer, it was not interested in being vindictive and punishing you. It simply did not work the way you wanted it to work. This is a perfect model of what happens in life.
For sure.
And Shams, you've raised your hand. You can unmute.
Yeah, I was just thinking, interesting that you say brain cells. It's almost like, what thoughts do we keep hostage or do we keep in prison? I just thought it's
That's one of the
interesting.
objectives of forgiveness, is to uncover those things that we've kept hidden from ourselves. Literally, when I live in denial, and in this work, our definition of denial is when I think or speak as though something outside of me is the cause of what's moving inside of me. I'm in denial. And when I do that, I have to literally hide or dissociate from the cause of what's moving inside of me. The objective of forgiveness is to uncover those things I've dissociated from, or perhaps my generations have dissociated from, and clean them out of the mind so they no longer impact my life. That guy looks really upset.
Yes. I've had many moments like that.
No, Yinka, not you.
Yes, me. And not just with computers. So getting the computer to work takes learning. Is that what you're calling building brain cells? Richard asked. So in life, we live out the realities for which we have brain cells. Life does not punish. It only gives us back what we ask for. If the realities we hold in the brain cells call for what looks like punishment, life will be limited to doing just that again and again until we change. Just like the computer, when we learn how life works, its creative capacity will open up to you.
The difference of night and day.
Yeah. So developing a deeper, comprehensive comprehension of how we learn and refining our understanding of difference between realities and actuality will make the work easier to grasp. In the Aramaic culture, the distinction between actuality and reality was well understood through the brain. We can only see and grasp the reality is in our brain cell structure through we may think we see and understand what is happening in the outside world. There is much more to life than what is seen through our limited senses. So it takes patience to build brain cells. For deeper awareness, it takes time to integrate the ideas presented in this work, and for significant change to take place. Those without the brain cells will often wonder why others get excited when using these tools. What I really like about these tools is that you can give it to anybody. You don't have to teach anything. If you give them, I gave a worksheet to somebody yesterday that doesn't know anything about these teachings, and they've been messaging me of what's been coming up for them. So I like the fact that you don't even need to know it. If you put it into practice, these tools still draw it out.
Yeah, and one of the things we're looking to do is to assist people to shift out of just working within belief systems that are inaccurate and stepping into the actuality. There's a new process I'm doing with people, a 3-day personal one-on-one residential intensive. And I've been doing some writing about that. There's a piece in there that I'd like to share with you. So when one works within beliefs rather than the actuality of what exists, it's somewhat like rearranging the deck chairs in the Titanic. The band sounds better, and one's feet may be the last to go into the icy cold water, but the ship's still going down. Direct contact with actuality by collapsing beliefs and perceptual constructs of the mind based in generations of unconscious ignorance, imagined or imposed terror and misunderstanding, removes us from the trap of projections from the past and future, which opens the way to clarity and choosing a corrective path. To fully engage the work, there is a gate that each must pass through. It is the gateway of ignorance and indemnification from the past. It's the passageway that shifts us from belief and perception to truth. In order to truly fulfill one's created potential and experience the exalted state demonstrated by just a handful of lives throughout history, the brain cells must be acquired to even enter into the actual healing process, instead of the many shams that pretend knowledge. In this regard, one particularly brilliant practitioner whose singular stated purpose was to bring us life and bring it more abundantly said it this way: small is the gate and narrow is the road that leads to life, and only a few will find it. What is life? Life is conscious love flowing through a cell. Life is conscious love flowing through a cell. And anything that we do to restrict that energy of love flowing through our cellular structure reduces our life expectancy, literally, and introduces into the cell disease and death. The objective of this work ultimately is to undo all of that.
So people often become impatient with this work because they want all the information now, instead of taking the time to go through the learning process. But why can't we have it now?
I've got $5 and 5 minutes. Tell me everything you know.
Yeah.
Not the way it works.
So I experienced some frustration myself, shares Michael, because I would like to teach the whole process in one exhale. It would be wonderful if people could have all the understanding and tools in usable form all at once.
Would be nice.
It would be nice. So if you can do it, please.
Right now.
Yes. So one of the blocks that tends to slow the process is the conflicting realities people have in their minds about words. The way words are used plays an important part in building brain cells. A word may be understood in various ways. It may be hooked into a variety of realities, individual to each mind. There are agreed upon meanings that seem to be inherent in words, but the only meaning a word has is the reality it brings up in an individual's brain cell structure. Just because people agree upon a definition does not mean the word itself holds that or any meaning.
Yeah, the objective of words is to elicit understanding within, and then the words can be used to describe how to use the tools. But the end result of using the tools, it's kind of like, imagine you live in a world where you've never tasted one of my favorite things, chocolate. And I'm going to describe what chocolate tastes like. Are you ever going to know what the taste of chocolate? I mean, if I wrote 10 volumes on what chocolate tastes like, would you know what one bite of chocolate tastes like? No. So words are not going, and people oftentimes want an experience from the words. Words can't give you the experience. They can give you the directions for producing the experience, but you've got to follow the directions to get the experience. And most people are like, don't make me do that. Okay. To each their own.
So I can see, Michael, that just keeping clear on the concept of realities and actualities will take time for me, but I'm up for the challenge. I can see it as going to involve unlearning old habits of thinking and ingrained behaviors. It's time for me to deal with the things that haven't worked in my life. I just need to get past the feeling that overwhelms me when I think about how much work I have to do.
And that's a big one. And, one of the key tools to use in that regard is notice when one goes into that type of overwhelm. What most people do is shut the breath down. And we can move through and process energy so much faster just through the use of the breath. It is the most amazing tool.
Oh, Tracy's got a question. Just unmute.
Well, just a sort of comment really, because this thing about words is really interesting, because I've noticed that when I'm engaging in the worksheets and I'm actually releasing things, there's been things that I never thought I would see on the other side, and no words could have described that to me. So, like for instance, when I've holding on to that old idea of forgiveness and then going, I'm just going to do the worksheets, and then realizing that what I feel on the other side is like I'm healing, generations of stuff. And that gives me such love and peace and joy. But if I was talking about it before, I wouldn't have been able to describe that. And I also wouldn't have even known that was going to exist.
Right.
I would have been like, well, how can I forgive these people for this? Because I feel this around it. But on the other side of it, it's like, oh my goodness, you feel like more than the sum of the parts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and in the scientific world, it's called transmutation. That literally, when we take something based in pain that seems so solid and real and fixed and it could never go away, if I can bring the root of that forward in the presence of active love, it's like applying sunshine to a puddle of water. The puddle of water disappears. Trauma in the presence of active love disappears. One of the things to learn is to bring forward that presence of love at the same time as you allow old traumas to surface. And when the two meet, it's like you don't have to figure it out or do anything with it. All you have to do is bring it forward and breathe, and the change occurs.
Yeah, that's what I couldn't see on, beforehand.
Right.
So, and now on the other side and feeling the things I'm starting to feel, I realized I could
Nice.
never have worked that out, never with my mind.
Yeah. Well, and in the codependence, the interdependence work that I do, I point out what I call the pseudo solutions of the non-being mind. The number one pseudo solution of the non-being mind is, if I could just figure this out, then everything would be okay. And you can't figure it out. But at any time you choose to apply the worksheet process, you can forgive it. And, we do have an app. It's the world's only forgiveness app. If you go to your app store, it's free. Type in the words Heartland, Heartland, one word, Aramaic forgiveness. You'll see a glowing heart on one of the apps that comes up, and that's it. And put that tool to work, and it's the most amazing thing you'll ever experience, I promise. As you say, when you let yourself do it.
Thank you. Yeah. It's like getting yourself out of the way, isn't it, to do it? Yeah.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Thanks so much.
And when you say it that way, it's getting yourself out of the way. You go back to Yeshua 2,000 years ago, and again, this got nothing to do with theology. He says, in order for you to live, you've got to die. That false self has to get the hell out of the way, because that's what holds and maintains the trauma. And when I can bring in the true self, the true presence of love, those things just dissolve and fall apart. It's like,
do you have a question, Shams?
Yeah, thanks. Yes, Michael, just to echo that, Sufism says die before you die.
yeah, the false self has to go.
So on your note of talking about experiencing the chocolate tasting, if this life experience is for us to grow and deepen our understanding of our life purpose and life itself, but it's to grow. So we might not be able to grow as much when we are just, happy, but when we are being tested and challenged and bleeding and in pain, and there seems to be where the most growth happens generally.
Well, my take is that there's a pitfall in that thinking, and that is, well, then I just have to keep creating traumas in my life. For me, the difference in that is that most people are motivated to do something when they're in pain. So it seems like that's where the growth comes from. But you don't have to wait to be motivated by pain to choose to do your work and grow without the pain. So we can do it through choice, or being kicked in the limitation. Easier when we learn to do it through choice and to keep moving rather than having to do trauma and drama.
Right. I didn't mean creating the drama. I was thinking about more when the experience comes your way, to embrace it in a way that what lesson has just been gifted to me? What opportunity is this presenting as for my growth? And so I was just questioning that if we move ourselves into when it's happening, in other words, to immediately change that into the lesson and the abundance story of like, well, what blessing is this behind? It's like where Rumi says that the cure is in the pain.
It's in the
like
pain. Yep.
Understanding that to get the nugget.
Yes. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool.
So noticing, how does overwhelm affect you when it comes to doing the work? I know for me personally, when I get overwhelmed, I'm less likely to do it. But it's probably the time that I do need to do it.
That's because, you know, I always think, oh my gosh, there's like 20 problems. And then I realize that when I do a worksheet, there's one problem, which is that I'm not allowing myself to come from love. And then that fixes all the other perceived problems. So that's been a revelation, you know, that it's not such a mountain to climb.
Yeah, totally resonate with that. And you've got to do that one worksheet to come to that realization of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I do sense for myself, overwhelm can be an easy excuse to not do it because I've got too much to do and I'm too overwhelmed and I've got too many things to work on.
That can be one of the excuses. And what often happens, you know, when fear comes into play, what happens is mind goes into a state of sympathetic dominance. And sympathetic dominance is, and you know, in this culture, almost the whole Western culture, most people live there in sympathetic dominance. And that's fear, fright, flight, freeze. A lot of people just freeze. And the reason for that is because when one goes into sympathetic dominance, in order to provide for survival, blood is shunted away from the non-survival functions of the body, and literally the blood is sent to the larger muscles of the arms and the legs so that we can fight or run. And one of the places that the blood is shunted away from is from the higher centers of the brain. And the brain just shuts down. You know, the person who freezes in the face of a trauma, it's not that they're choosing to not do anything. Literally, the blood supply isn't there to cause the brain to operate and to move forward. And what happens as you engage in the forgiveness process is you can face a trauma and shift out of that sympathetic dominant state and stay in a parasympathetic balanced state where you have full blood flow and therefore you can actively participate in your own healing rather than go into that free state. But it's a powerful state to go into, and it takes time to do the work to recover from that.
But you wouldn't be able to stay in that all the time, would you? That wouldn't be reality, or
which is that
kind of parasympathetic balance, you know, is there a state where you've healed so much that you can really live largely from that place?
You're designed to live from that. Yeah. It's an aberration to live. I mean, the sympathetic dominant state is a wonderful state. I mean, it is literally survival. You know, you're out in the jungle and the bear's coming after you. You got 3 minutes, and you know, nothing needs to operate except the arms and the legs in that state. And we can remove the fear that is in the mind and step back into a connected space of love and still face the bear, but not have to go into that freeze, fight, flight mode. So over time, and usually people follow the generational patterns. These responses are patterned into us. As you engage in the forgiveness process and you undo the generational patterns, you tend to be able to move out of those sympathetic dominant states. You know, there's a story in the ancient scriptures about, you know, this group of people who gets lost ostensibly in a 35 square mile hot sandy place called the desert for 40 years. Now, anybody that thinks that a group of people as bright as the Jews were, who understood astronomy very well, got lost in a 35 square mile area, has got to be pretty naive. It wasn't talking about a hot sandy place. The desert is a code word for the unconscious. If we're stuck in the unconscious place where we haven't dealt with the family dynamics, then that sympathetic dominance, if we come from generations who had no idea that it even existed, let alone knew what to do about it, then the automatic response will be, pardon me, sympathetic dominance. if you read that whole story about those people being lost in that unconscious state for 40 years, you remember that what they said in order to get out of the desert, what had to happen? They said the old generation had to die off. That didn't mean that everybody in old physical bodies had to physically die. The root of the word generation is genari. It means causes. All of the causes of those fear responses have to be removed. And when the fear responses are gone, there's no reason to go into sympathetic dominance. No matter what's happening in the world, you can stay connected in that space of love. Now, some people have called that being a saint. I offer, no, that's not some kind of a religious idea of sainthood. It's where we're designed to live, a calm, connected space of love, whatever's going on in the world. Then we can be conscious actors in the world rather than react out of old unconscious dynamics. So my offering is, yes, sympathetic, parasympathetic balance is our natural state.
Yeah, because also, because I'm an artist, and I was talking to someone recently who said to me, but if you lost all your pain and all your trauma, you wouldn't be a creative artist because that's where it all comes from. And I said, surely you can create from thriving as well. And I was really trying to get that across, and I guess actually, if I'm honest, sometimes I have that belief still in me, that you've got to be tortured to be creative, and obviously that's not the most creative space.
No, my offering is when you're connected to love, that's where the widest range of creativity is possible. Have a lot of people utilized the trauma state to be creative? Yes. Not saying that can't be done, but thank you. Make mine vanilla. I'll pass on that one. I'll gladly take a state of creativity that is totally, completely connected to love and delight and joy. And having been in both places, my vote would be, let's eradicate the one that comes from pain and trauma, because it is, to me, clearly inferior. Doesn't mean you can't do it, but it's definitely inferior.
Wow, thank you. That's really helped me, because I think that is a belief that I still have going around.
Might be a good worksheet topic.
Sorry.
It might be a good worksheet topic.
Yes, that could be. Yes,
on a worksheet. Yeah. Like, in order to be creative, I connect to love and I'm in delight and joy.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Thank you. Again, thank you.
So I don't agree with everything you have said, and some of it doesn't click for me yet. But I've looked at many other approaches, and this one makes more sense than anything else I've investigated. Richard spoke with an unexpected enthusiasm and sincere appreciation. If you've been doing the work, how has doing the worksheets worked for you? So recognizing how the worksheets have worked for you. I know quite a few names on here that you've been to the 5 a.m. sessions when we've done those sessions. So recognizing how the worksheets work for you. Because often we do the work and then put the sheet down, walk away, and then don't pick it up again.
Next layer. Well, for me, what I've discovered, and I originated this work, I've been working with it for the last 50 years and developing it. But for me, what I've found is the most profoundly sweet spaces is where I get to work through the deepest traumas that I've ever looked at and dealt with in terms of my own personal process. And one of the keys to being in that state is to really engage the breath as part of the process. You watch most people in their trauma states and they're locked, their breath is locked down, their physiology is locked down, and that locks that trauma into tissue. Breathe and let it go.
It's interesting for me because I know the part of the letting go is going to come on the worksheet, and I always seem to forget that bit's going to come, the thing that I really want to let go of. And it's like, and as soon as I let go, it's like I feel like, oh, like that's the work, isn't it? It's that letting go of that, the goal, to then see what's underlined underneath that goal.
Yeah, I've been doing probably the first worksheet that I designed and taught was 45 years ago. And it always amazes me when people cancel that goal, just what all of a sudden, boom, what's just right there for them. And that they had no idea, was totally, completely hidden. And bang, there it is. And turn around and they're done with it. It's pretty amazing.
So putting these tools to work in your life will fill in many blanks and answers most of your questions. Let's look at the forgiveness process. It is presented in the reality management worksheet. So that's what we're going to go into next time, of going into more about the reality management worksheets. But how many reality management worksheets are you willing to do before the next chapter? So we've got a whole month. Is it a month? About the 9th? Did you say the 9th of August? Something like that. Dedicating a number or a time, either whether it's 1, 3, 5 a day, of how many reality worksheets are you willing to do before our next chapter? Is anybody willing to commit?
Hold up fingers. How many are you going to do?
So for me, I'm going to put 2 a day, morning and evening.
Cool. Good start. One of the things that for years I suggested when I did the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop live for people is I suggested that people make a commitment for 40 days to do 5 worksheets a day. And that just changes everything.
So I think we've got 28 days for the next one.
How many are willing to join Yinka in that commitment to do 2 a day?
I will.
Okay,
Yinka.
great, Tracy.
I will.
All right, so Shams, you going to join it? Angel?
Is that starting from tomorrow, Yinka?
That could start tonight. We could do at least one tonight.
You could start
Before
do
we
the
go to
first
bed.
half of it, seeing as how you got one evening. Go ahead grab one tonight and get it started and rock and roll.
Yinka will no doubt be checking up on me and my homework.
Yes. So how many?
All right,
How many are you going to do,
you're on
Shams?
for it. And
Yeah,
Angel, I see you unmuted yourself.
Yeah,
You're going to go for it.
Yeah,
Good.
well, it's just the worksheet itself. I need to yeah, I'll do one tonight. But
And
I
then
need
2 a day for the next 28 days.
Yeah, what I need to do is I need to type it out again, because it's the writing, it's all quite close together. So I probably need to put that on that one worksheet on 2 pages, really, to retype it. And
if you just message me, if you email me, I can send you what, because I've got it typed out, like, so it's spaced out.
I think I have a few times, but I don't think you've sent it to me, because I've asked for it in the past as well. But I mean, if you've got it all typed up,
I might not have got your email sent over.
Yeah.
Message.
Okay.
Well, and you can also, remember, download the app and do it right on your phone.
Yes. And the app
Just
is
fill
great.
in the
It's nice and
blanks
easy.
on the
Yeah,
phone.
but that's very small on the app, isn't it? That's the writing on the app.
Well, it depends on the size of your screen, but if you've got a smartphone, it's a pretty good size. Works.
Yeah.
Or a tablet.
Yeah, I think for me it's just it's difficult kind of because I think I've got I'm on the spectrum somewhere, so looking at that kind of form for me it's really
Difficult.
yeah,
Right.
it's quite difficult.
Okay.
So but all I need to do is just kind of get the form and just, you know, I've been meaning to do it myself, you know, I just haven't got around to it, and just retyping the form up really for so it's more kind of readable, visible for me really. But yeah, I'll do that. I mean, I you know, I've done it before, and I've kind of just written out the stuff that I need to write out. So I'm going to do that.
Cool.
I'm actually going to send you it now, Angela.
Oh, are you? Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to send you the one that I've got spaced out.
Yeah, you can send it via WhatsApp, because if you just send it as a, you know, the attachment on WhatsApp, then I can print it at work.
Yinka, can you send me the one that you've got spaced out as well, please?
Yeah.
Thank you, honey.
Yeah, add me into that as well, because I have got one that's a bit more spaced out, but I don't know if it's the same as yours. So if that's all right, Yinka, I'll have yours as well.
Then we've got no excuse, have we?
No.
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly what I was thinking.
And there is something about actually writing it out.
Yeah, I found that. I found when I've done them and I've written them out, it's easier, and yeah, and it's kind of just writing the question itself as well, isn't it? Is good.
Yeah, it's just a different energy writing it, you know, writing through that pen, writing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I find that with everything, you know, when I kind of with questions, when I'm looking, you know, for the answer anyway, just writing down the question is more helpful for me anyhow. So
I've sent it by email, but Angela, I've sent you also by WhatsApp
lovely.
as well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And there's no excuse
Yeah.
now. I've
No
just seen the
excuses.
email
All got
come
your homework.
And
you can actually fill it in on the sheet, because I've done it on, because
Oh,
I've done
really?
it for my own eyesight. So then you can actually just type it in. I think you can just type it in.
Great. Oh, thanks very
But
much.
I like the sheet in my hand and spaced out like that. So everyone's got, so has everybody got a number of how many they're going to do? The 28 days, making a commitment?
And we'll
About you,
go over
Shams?
some. Here would be my suggestion. If you do that, keep a notebook, and let's do our next session on any and every question that you develop through the next 28 days. So if you would, while you're doing, and let's get down to like the tiniest little refinements on it. So if everybody would, while you're doing that 2 a day for the next 28 days, then that next session we'll step in and answer every question in that regard.
That's awesome. We'll have a Q&A next time.
Yes.
Michael, sorry, could you repeat what you just said there when you were talking about the minute questions?
I was just suggesting that,
yeah,
you know, if you'll do the 2 worksheets a day for the next 28 days,
yeah,
you keep a notebook with
yeah,
anything that, as you're doing it, doesn't make sense. You go, oh, geez, you know, this step number 3, well, does it mean this? Does it mean, and write
yeah.
down your questions, and then we'll do a full session with just questions on the worksheet.
Okay.
Even the, you know, the tiniest, nitpickiest little things.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
That'd be awesome.
Great. Got that.
Yay.
So no holiday for us.
Yeah. You've got homework. No, you've got
Or
worksheets.
you could call it a healing holiday.
Yeah.
Healing, I like that. Healing holiday.
Yeah, I really don't mind. The digging in more, I don't mind. Bring it up.
Bring it up and clean it
Powerful.
out.
And remember to breathe.
Yes.
That's such a key.
So a key thought, what want change, start with the part you can control, yourself.
Yeah, the only 2 square feet in the world you can control.
And remember to hold a space of love when you do these worksheets. Sometimes just even going in, closing your eyes and holding, allowing yourself to become quiet with your awareness focused inside. Think of that which inspires in you the clearest, strongest, most powerful love you are capable of feeling. When you hold a newborn baby, if you've never held a newborn baby, if you've held a pet, holding that close and just breathing and feeling into that.
And I'll certainly be joining you in it.
And our next chapter will be 23, but it won't be on the 9th. It'll be the following time, because next time we'll do a Q&A, but the next session will be the 9th of August.
Go one more. Awesome.
Lovely.
Fabulous. Well, any other questions before we complete?
Right, Sham said she's going to do 1 a day. So I'm holding you that. So you're going to have 28
All right.
8 worksheets.
Cool. And if you decide to do a second one, it's okay. There are no penalties.
Yes.
How generous of you, Michael. After all, it is forgiveness is forgiving, and you're so giving.
Forgiving, yes.
So I shall play us out with some music. It's actually
All
a
right.
10 minutes meditation music. So there's that one
Thank
to
you,
stay.
everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Yinka. And
Thank you, Michael.
everyone.
Thank you.
Honored and delighted. Pass it on.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We've
All
now
right,
got
take care.
we've got now some accountability.
Absolutely.
Yes. Fabulous. All right.
All right.
Have
See
a
you
blessed
all
one.
soon.
Take care.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Michael.
Thank
Night.
you.
Bless you.
You.
Good night, everybody.